You are listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast. This is the place where content creators come to learn how to create profitable content that positions themselves as an authority and grows their online businesses. Get ready to take your content to a whole new level with your host, Kristen Poborski.
Welcome to the Profitable Content Creators Podcast. I'm Kristen Poborski, and I want to talk to you today about why you need to be creating your content with a purpose. Now, I am not talking about what kind of content to create today. I'm really talking about the why, the behind, why you need to be strategic with the type of content you create for your business. Now, if you're a newbie in a launch or just creating content on a consistent basis, you're going to want to be strategic with your efforts. So what I'll be covering today are the three main content pillars that you need in your business so that your content supports your marketing efforts. I'll be sharing exactly what you need to create and how these three content pillars are what they are that everyone needs. So the first one that I'll be covering is authority content, and then I will go into launch content, and finally I will talk to you about evergreen content. But before I dive into the details of each of these content pillars, I want to give you an intro for all of those of you who are wondering who I am. I'm Kristen Poborski, and I help healers, business and life coaches dial in and implement their content strategy, including course creation, so that they can attract more customers into the practice. My backstory is that back in 2014, I discovered the power of content creation. I was actively looking for solutions to the lack of eyeballs on my content, and I stumbled upon a tool called BuzzSumo that helps content creators discover top performing content. I thought to myself, well, what if I could find hot topics and create my own content using those same hot topics? And that's what I decided to do. I started testing out this theory with my own content and with that of my client, Todd Krieger, who is a marriage and family therapist and relationship coach located in California. And here's the cool thing. What happened with him is that after 30 days, the first 30 days after we created and published his first piece of content, we started seeing amazing results. His monthly traffic went from 400 views up to 1,000 views. And then by month 2, we got even more traction and his traffic doubled to 2,000 views. And by month 4, it had doubled over to 4,000 views a month, which was even cooler was the ripple effect that this had on his list and in his business. We started seeing his open rates go up from what was a dead list, that we brought it back to life again with this great content, and his phone started ringing. So fast forward today. He's been able to double his hourly rate and has a waiting list of people who are willing to wait 4 to 6 weeks to work with him. Even during the lockdown, his business did not dip. And if you go and look at his social media platforms, his YouTube, it's blowing up. And that, in a nutshell, is the power of content creation. So let's dive into today's topic. One of the things that nobody talks about when it comes to content creation is how to strategically create content to grow your business. Now, I know everyone says you got to create content, and that's true, but it needs to be created with a purpose. And that purpose changes depending on where you are in your business and where you are in your current marketing cycle. I know that it needs to be created with where you are in your cycle. And I look at those three pillars. Those are three pillars when it comes to strategically creating and when I actually use certain pieces of content in my business and for that of my client. Okay, so let's dive into the first one. Okay, the first one is authority content. And this content is predominantly evergreen content, and it relates directly to what you sell. So if you're just getting started out creating content, you want to be creating authority content because it's going to position you as the authority. And what kind of content is that? It's like why content. Why do things that you should be doing. It all relates back to what in your business, what content, what to do and when to solve a problem. I also love list posts where you can list different things steps that you want to do, but don't give it all away. You don't want to do that because the real how to is behind the steps is in your programs. Okay. And then last but not least, there should be some tutorial how to content, but you don't want to give away all of your secrets for free. So you got to be strategic on how you create these authority pieces of content. You want to give value. You want to push people towards making a decision. So what you say and how you say it gets people excited to want to work with you. And we teach that all inside our Smart Simple Content marketing program. We teach people how to message in such a way that it pushes their audience to wanting to make a decision, whether it's to pick up the phone or to opt into your freebie. Okay, so the second kind of content is launch content. Now, this is still evergreen content, but this is content that you put out there as your runway content when you're in launch mode, and you're going to create content that is strategically related directly to what product or service that you are promoting during your launch, okay? And again, you're going to want to be covering these why content for sure, because you want to teach people why, you want to prime them to want to join your launch. So you need to say why they have a problem, why they need to fix it. And then you want to go into the what to do, not how to do. So that's a different kind of content. You want to go into what to do when you have these problems. And that's, again, not giving them the how, but the why. You're still adding value when you give them the why and the what content. Then one of the most strategic pieces of content that you can create and push out during your launch is our case studies. And I love case studies. And let me tell you the power of case studies. I did a launch back in January, and I did a case study right during my launch, and people started showing up. And I'm interviewing one of my students in my Smart Simple Content Marketing program. And she's talking about how she launched her business and how the way I taught her how to create content really helped her make her launch go so much better. And she had all of this content that really positioned her as an authority. And what that did for my audience who was going through my launch, they could relate to that person. They can relate to them. And they started showing up in my inbox and asking how could they join my program. So one of the things that case studies does is gets people to start thinking, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And what you really want to do when you pick someone for a case study is you want to pick somebody that isn't too far ahead in their business. Because if you pick somebody and you're teaching beginners something and you pick someone to do a case study and they're making millions of dollars and they've been in business for a really long time, they're going to have a hard time relating to it. So really, this was a person in my program who was just launching their business, brand new, and people in my launch really could relate to what she said. So there is the power of case studies. It's like one of my most favorite things to do during a launch. Okay, so pillar number 3 really is creating evergreen content. So this is the bread and butter of everything. Now, again, it's a lot like authority content, but I usually say authority content comes first. You want to build up a library of content, and you want to have it across many categories, all that relate to what you do in your business, the products, the services, whatever you do. Evergreen content, you just go back to creating evergreen content that relates to what you sell. And again, it's pretty much the same as authority content. It's just your bread and butter. day in and day out why content, what content, list contents, and how to content. Okay. So I'm going to give you one tip not to do, because I've had clients do this in the past, and they want to create content that isn't evergreen. And you're probably wondering, okay, what is not evergreen content? When non-evergreen content is when you are referring to a specific time of year, an event happening, something in the media, politics. Don't ever talk about politics or make comments about your feelings about current events, because that is not evergreen content. And sometimes it's like, when you have someone come to dinner, you don't talk about politics at the dinner table. It's kind of like that too. It just, it could alienate yourself from your audience and people that otherwise might want to work with you. So it's never a good idea to talk about politics. And again, if you talk about seasonal things, then it's hard to build a marketing machine and reuse your content over and over again, because it is not evergreen. So you don't want to do that. All right. You really want to focus on evergreen content, whether it's your authority content, which is pillar number 1. Pillar number 2, launch content. That should also be evergreen stuff that you can reuse again and again for every time you launch. It makes it a lot easier. And then your ongoing evergreen content. So what I want to leave you with is, which is another very important piece of advice. It's not a start doing, but it's a stop doing. Okay. And what I want you to do is really stop listening to people who tell you that creating content is dead. You just need to find the right topics and create content that helps you to build your business for whatever stage of business building or marketing you're currently in. So again, it's about picking the right topics and making sure that everything relates back to what you do in your business. And I want to leave you with this wonderful quote from Amy Porterfield. This is great. I love what she says here. She says, content will keep you in the game. It's what shapes your message. It's what allows you to make an impact. It's how you do business. So I want to leave you to think about this, because this is exactly why I'm so passionate about helping people create content that matters to their audience and helps them build your business. Because when it's done right and consistently, it does grow your business. So I want to ask you guys a question. Are you ready to stop listening to those people who say you don't need content in your marketing plan and take action and start creating one of these pillars of content today? So you know that when you do that, you'll be able to get your message out in the world and serve more people. And if you're ready to do that and you're nodding your head and saying, yes, Kristen, I want to do that, I've got the content roadmap, which will help you figure out what steps you need to take to get yourself into the consistent content creation game. And I've got the link down in the notes below so you can grab your copy. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll be back again next week with another piece of profitable content creation tips.
You've been listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, where content creators go to learn how to take their content creation to the next level. If you love the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. Until next time.